You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name, and politics is our game, and we will be doing politics this evening because we have as our guest Paul Green, who knows more about politics in the city of Chicago, in the county of Cook, in the state of Illinois, and the country of the U.S. than any living man, woman, or child. That'll be right, Paul Green?
2/3 right.
2/3 right. He is the Director of Politics and Public Policy. He is the Arthur Rubloff Professor of Policy Studies at Roosevelt University. He is a WGN political pundit. He is a double graduate of the University of Chicago, master's and PhD.
Yes.
And the University of Illinois,
undergraduate. Yes.
So if anybody would know the answer to the question, here, Barack Obama, people think he's a magical figure across the country.
Mm-hmm.
State Senator Steve Rauschenberger, who served with him for 14 years. Well, there was an overlap of, he was there for 14 years. Mm-hmm. Senator Obama was only there for 8 years, but they overlapped for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he said about Senator Barack Obama, he is Senate President Emil Jones in a better looking suit for 8 years. Did he get that right, or is that too harsh?
I like Steve Rauschenberger a lot. Steve Rauschenberger is a former
Rauschenberger
is a former Illinois politician. Barack Obama is very close to becoming president of the United States. I think Steve may be exaggerating a tad.
What was the substance? Look, the guy is running. Barack Obama is running for president of the United States basically on his 8 years of experience in the state legislature and his 3 years of experience, really 2 years in the U.S. Senate because he's been spent the last year running. So
it makes no difference.
8 years in the state Senate, what did he do that qualifies him to be president of the United States?
It makes no difference.
No,
it makes no difference. One of the things that's happened in this campaign is that the word change has dominated experience. The two Democrats who had the most experience running for president were Senators Dodd and Biden, and they were the two early dropouts. Experience means almost nothing. You're voting for change, and change is a wonderful word. It means something for everybody, what they want to believe. And as long as Obama keeps, and his campaign is brilliant, makes the key word change, not experience, not having any experience is probably a plus.
Well, but as a person who studied political science for a good part of your professional career, would that be
most
accurate?
of my life.
All of your life, most of your adult life, certainly. If you study this, does it matter, do you think, in terms of who will do a good job as President of the United States if that person actually has some experience serving as an executive, as a legislator, serving on dealing with national issues? Does it matter?
Sure it matters once you get into office.
Yeah,
but the purpose is to get to office first. All I'm suggesting to you, Mr. Berkowitz, is that what gets you into office may not be the same credentials and criteria you need when you're in office.
All right, so he's got the charisma. Is that what gets him into office?
He's got the background, the charisma, an unbelievably solid campaign organization, fundraising that even the most conservative right-wing Republican has to be amazed at, raising $55 million in a single month, and the month was February. Just think if it was March, he'd have 2 more days. He might have hit 60. What you have in effect is somebody who is rewriting the book on how to become president. And so far, he has taken on what I thought was the most impressive campaign organization I've ever seen, Mrs. Clinton, and basically has turned her into the second most important. His organization is beating her organization.
But he seems to lack the ability to throw the knockout punch. Coming out of Iowa with a big victory, going into New Hampshire, he was favored. The polls say he had it. Something went wrong, and Clinton came back. Hillary did the first time. Super Tuesday, she sort of came back again. Mm-hmm. She came back for the third time. If he could have just kept her from taking both Ohio and Texas, just keep one of it, it would have been over, right?
Right, correct.
But she took those, and she took Rhode Island, and everybody said she's back, and she may be in the lead now.
No.
Not in delegates, but in the lead in terms of momentum.
She lost in Wyoming. She's going to lose in Mississippi. The fact of the matter is that he is winning the so-called red states 3-2 over her, because of his organizational skills of his people and what he represents to red state Democrats who don't usually have much to talk about in their states.
Red states, what are the red states?
Wyoming and Nebraska and Idaho.
But he's not going to win those states in the national election, so what's the point?
The point is, before you run to the national election, you got to win the nomination. The reason he has a 100-delegate lead is because he is winning all of these states where the net delegate count is as big as her net delegate count in the big states.
But the super delegates in the Democratic Party, who are a party that is really not so democratic with a small d, they can nullify, they can void the will of the people. Even if Obama has more pledged delegates going in, super delegates number about 800. They can wipe out that small lead in a flash, just like that.
Super delegates have never had a role in any of the campaigns for president, for the nomination. Since '84, they have based it.
Well, they only started in the '80s. Super delegates since '84.
The Democrats have never had a contest go this long.
Yeah, but now they have, and now the 800 delegates can matter.
And there is tremendous amount of inside baseball going on between the Clinton and Obama forces. The real campaign is being done on the phone and emails and person-to-person conversations. If you were a super delegate, Jeff, for the Democratic Party, you might be offered a second-tier ambassador's job. Because,
and I might take it.
And it would be a blessing for you and perhaps the country.
All right, but I'm not, and so it won't be. And so the point is, though, Hillary and Bill can play that game as well as anybody. If it comes to the infighting, if it comes to promising favors, whether it's pardons, whether it's whatever, whether it's ambassadorships, whether it's calling in chits, you're still saying Barack Obama wins that game against Hillary and Bill?
I think he's still the favorite. Remember, Barack Obama's campaign is heavily influenced by the staff of former Senate President Tom Daschle. There are a lot of Tom Daschle people who know the ropes in Washington very well, and they are very important in running his campaign, and most importantly, helping run his fundraising. Remember, he has over 1 million donors. And so if you're a superdelegate, the pressure on you is going to be immense. And most of those people became superdelegates not to have any pressure. They just wanted a nice trip to a convention. This is uncharted territory. So as I'll say it now, as of today, Obama is the favorite to get the nomination. If he loses Pennsylvania, then again, it's going to go on.
Then it changes, and then the momentum shifts
more toward Hillary.
Well, there's going to
be Indiana, and then North Carolina. But the bottom line is, no one's going to go to the convention with the 2024 that you need.
We all know that. So coming out of the convention, say Barack Obama does have a lead, a small lead in pledged delegates of 100, maybe 70, maybe 60. And you get 300 to 350 uncommitted at that time super delegates. Did they turn the tide for Hillary against Barack? Make a prediction right now. What happens?
I won't, because no one. This is. You're asking me to make a prediction. Something. You go look at the past. It's never happened.
This isn't the academic world. This is the real world.
This is the Jeff Berkowitz world.
That's right. We expect you to make.
We don't worry about facts. All I can tell you is that right now I would think that those delegates are going to have tremendous pressure, especially if they represent any kind of state with a large African American population, at their own peril. Most of the superdelegates are elected officials, party or public office. Being martyrs is not one of their goals.
Wait, so race matters? You just
sneak
that word into there.
Damn right, race matters.
African American. What do you mean? What is that? How does that come into
Because
play?
they are the most solid, crucial part of the Democratic base. Remember, what you have happening
so they don't
right
want
now,
you're saying the superdelegates don't want to alienate.
They have a tough decision. You have. Let me finish my sentence. On one side, you have Obama having tremendous support among young people and among African Americans. You have Mrs. Clinton showing, again, regaining her strength among women and senior citizens. Both of those blocks are needed for the Democrats to win. Remember, the Democrats haven't done very well since 1964. They've only won, Carter and Clinton. That's it. So what you have in effect is that you have the base dividing. That base has to come together. So it's going to be a very difficult decision for those superdelegates, especially superdelegates who are legitimately uncommitted.
So at the end of the day, you're saying you don't know. You can't predict whether it's Clinton or Obama. You don't know how they come together. Some people
They may come together, though, in the sense that there is no other candidate out there, no other person out there who helps each other more than they help each other. So you may have a Obama-Clinton or a Clinton-Obama ticket simply because that's the only way you're going to unite these two parts of the Democratic Party.
Could you see Hillary Clinton taking number 2 to Barack Obama? Could you see
Possibly.
that? A 61-year-old lady taking number 2 to a 46-year-old man?
Possibly.
You could see that.
Yep. Possibly. No doubt about it.
And as you think about that, and as the Republicans think about that,
Remember, she serves 8 years. She's still younger than John McCain is running for president
right,
now.
and she brings all the baggage of the Clinton administration, and Barack Obama brings Tony Rezko into the White House.
Well, we'll see about that.
Or will we? How damaging is Tony Rezko, his trial? We're taping the show on March 9th, and earlier this week the trial of Tony Rezko began. How important is that for nationally as to the chances of Barack Obama becoming president?
All depends what comes out. People
His name has been mentioned already in the
mentioned
trial.
once, but
He's a good friend. That's what Rezko said. He's a good friend of a lot of people, including Barack Obama.
Obama has one advantage in that trial.
What's that?
Governor Blagojevich is a better friend.
Well, but Governor Blagojevich isn't running for president, at least not today.
Or perhaps tomorrow.
But you're not telling me how damaging.
Oh, it all
is
depends how his name comes out. If he just says he's a friend, it hurts. It's a pinprick.
Could he subpoena him? Could he ask for him to be a witness?
I don't know.
If you were the judge, how would you decide that?
If I was Judge St. Ives, I would probably not have you asking me whether I can do it or not. No, I don't know what's going to happen. Okay. I think no one knows what's going to happen. Clearly, Rezko has the ability to hurt Obama's campaign. Whether he'll do it or not, I have no idea.
Can Barack Obama throw a knockout punch? Can he throw it?
You mean on Mrs. Clinton?
Just in general, it seems like Barack Obama, he says he's got sharp elbows, he plays basketball, but if you look at him, you've seen him, you saw him in the Democratic primary in the 2004 U.S. Senate race. It was a tough race, he won, but he didn't personally throw any elbows there, but it did seem odd that Blair Hull had all these problems with the stuff in sex and drugs come out. Jack Ryan had all this stuff about sex clubs. Who was throwing those elbows in that basketball game? It wasn't Barack Obama, but tell me, Paul Green, who threw those elbows?
I believe the media was very strong in
Yeah,
that.
but who planted it in the media? The media is, they're lazy guys, that. The mainstream media,
not
they don't
you,
do
Jeff,
anything,
not you, Jeff.
except for me.
Of course.
Yeah, but who gave them that stuff? Come on, you know the answer to that
No, I
question.
don't.
Well, who plays that game? Who ran
don't know.
who ran the Obama campaign in 2004?
David Axelrod.
Yeah, and he knows machine politics better than anybody. He knows how to get down and dirty better than anybody. Would that be true?
That's your opinion.
Was that your opinion?
No, but
So
that's okay. He's very smart. And
would that be a plus if he knew that?
Yeah, David Axelrod is a very smart and a very successful campaign consultant, and is making himself a national person in this campaign. But to your suggestion, first off, you don't want to run against Barack Obama if you have any kind of sexual peccadillo in your background.
You don't, because it's bound to come out.
It comes out.
Somebody makes that happen,
even
right?
If the New York Times runs a phony story on you, I mean, it comes out with poor Senator McCain now. But the bottom line is that he's been very successful doing what he's been doing.
Who's
Obama. He has been able to withstand the pressure of the Clintons, who are, shall we say, pretty rough and ready politicians. He's in the lead. Who would have thought that he was my state senator, and someone who was a nobody within 4 short years could become the favorite to be the next president of the United States. So whatever he's been doing has been working pretty well.
Yeah, and when he ran for the state Senate in 1996, as you know, running from the South Side, the race is in the primary. The general election, surely you're going to win, especially your first primary. Initially, he had 4 opponents. He knocked every one of those off the ballot. So he ran unopposed when he won his first race for state Senate.
That race, he would have, we don't have to talk ancient history, but the key to understanding Obama is that his Senate district was not any different than what he is getting now nationally. He ran extremely well among poor African Americans at one end of the district and extremely well among affluent whites at the other end of the district. The very thing that's happening now, affluent and well-educated whites are flocking to Obama, as are African Americans.
Yeah, but you missed
That's
my
his
point.
base.
He didn't have any opponents in that race. It was uncontested. He knocked them all off the ballot on petition challenges.
Sometimes the best way to win is to run unopposed. I mean, are you challenging his political skill? You said he doesn't have sharp elbows.
I'm just saying, he has a knack for putting himself in a position where he doesn't have to run a race. At least he did that. Look, when he won the Iowa caucus, that was essentially the second contested race that he won. The first one being for U.S. Senate, because he didn't have any for the state Senate.
No,
unless you count somebody who's not on the ballot as contesting.
Remember, he lost for Congress against Bobby Rush in the primary in 2000.
Yeah, I'm saying he won. The first one, the second one he won was Iowa.
And he had the good fortune in 2004 to run against probably a person you still admire, Alan Keyes. who, by the way, in
I don't
that
admire
race,
anybody. I'm fair and balanced. You're the white line down the middle of the road,
and
I'm
you're
fair and
balanced. Remember, in that race, Alan Keyes would have lost one-on-one to Saddam Hussein. And,
yeah. Well, I'm saying, yeah, he had the good
So he's
fortune
been
to do
very
that
lucky.
because somebody got rid of Jack Ryan.
Well,
The Illinois Combine, did they get rid of Jack Ryan?
there is no such thing as the Illinois.
You don't think so?
No.
John Cass made it up?
No, John Cass is a very good reporter.
But he says there's an Illinois Combine.
And he
You're
has the right
taking
to
on
his
John
opinion.
Cass?
I would disagree with Mr. Cass, absolutely. I mean, if
You've
you're
got
talking about moderate conservative Republicans and moderate Democrats who get elected, you can call them a combine, you can call them anything you want. This is a middle-of-the-road state. This is not a state that enjoys the far left or the far right.
What's the Illinois Combine? You're the academic, you're the professor. Teach me as a student, what does John Cass mean when he says Illinois Combine?
That there's some kind of unwritten rule or some kind of understanding that certain groups of people get together to run things in the state, sort of like the version of the combination of the mafia, the Sopranos.
Certain groups of people. What would those groups of people be?
Or the Masons.
Define your terms, academic professor.
Just individuals who are involved in politics who get elected. The Thompson, Edgar wing of the Republican Party and the Daley wing of the Democratic Party.
Right, there we go. Democrats and Republicans getting together for public corruption for the benefit of both parties.
Now you're not, as always, Mr. Berkowitz.
That's what Cass says. I'm not saying that. That's what John Cass says.
Well, John Cass.
That's not Jeff Berkowitz. That's John Cass.
Well, the last thing I know, his name was in Delphi. He's not the Oracle. People could disagree with him. I do. I think some of that is accurate as far as the fact that these are individuals who are near the middle, left or right. This state does not like people on the extreme, and that's as simple as that. So you have the social conservatives on the Republican side who literally want to ruin the Republican Party by making non-important issues as far as electoral politics important.
Wait a second. Those social conservatives joined with economic conservatives to elect Peter Fitzgerald. U.S. Senator Peter Fitzgerald
won in a series of one victories.
Brought this people in the state of Illinois, Patrick Fitzgerald. Would you say Patrick Fitzgerald has done a great job as U.S. Attorney?
Patrick Fitzgerald did a great job, and
you got Peter Fitzgerald to thank for that. You have Peter Fitzgerald
I'm a great fan of Peter Fitzgerald. Peter Fitzgerald and I have been friends for a long time.
So don't lambast the social conservatives.
Well, they won one race. They won race.
Well, that's a pretty important one.
Well, yeah.
If it ever changes in Illinois, if the politics of pay-to-play changes in Illinois, you'll have two people to thank for that. Peter Fitzgerald and Patrick Fitzgerald.
But you have to understand that the social conservatives are rule or ruin politicians. They supported Blagojevich over Judy Parta-Pinkett. They called her the liberal candidate.
Yeah, well, don't blame that. She was a terrible candidate.
That's
She's a nice lady, but a terrible candidate. You would agree with that, right?
I disagree with that.
Judy Parta-Pinkett was a good candidate?
Downright, she won 3 straight
No, I'm talking about as a gubernatorial candidate. I'm not talking about state treasurer.
Well, she was spending most of the time
Who the hell cares about
guarding her rear end because she was being knifed in the back by her own party people.
Who are these influential conservatives who could knife Judy Parta-Pinkett in the back? Name names.
I'm not going to name names.
You're not going to name
people who believe.
This is McCarthyism at its worst. What are you talking about?
No, I'm McCarthyism.
Well, name names. You can't just say you got names of people in your
You're trying to make it Charlie McCarthyism. But the fact of the matter is that those individuals who view abortion, gay rights, and guns as really crucial political issues, when in reality, those are the very issues that have turned Illinois into a blue state. Mr. Berkowitz, as the professor, I'm just telling you, suburban Cook County has gone from being a counter
because pay-to-play is now going from Cook County to DuPage.
Do you honestly believe those people out there are part of pay-to-play? Do you honestly think that people who are taking Democratic ballots, who are voting for Democrats, are doing so because of pay-to-play? Or could it be the caliber of the Republican Party?
Have you heard of Tired Truck, Hired Tow? Have you heard of Don Tomczak?
And so all these
Have you heard of using city and county government resources, notwithstanding the Shackman decree, to elect people in the city of Chicago, in Cook, now outside in DuPage?
So
have you heard of that, Professor?
Yes, what you're saying, in effect, that all these people are a bunch of dupes. That the fact that Daley won last time
money
in
works. I'm not saying that.
2007
People have to be dupes
won all 50 wards. In 2007, only 3 of them under 60%.
You bought them off.
Oh, he just bought them off.
The opponents have no backbone.
So Jim Obaway should become president of the United States.
John Cass said that Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., Luis Gutierrez, somebody has to grow a backbone to take on Mayor Daley to bring about change. You like that word, change, in the city of Chicago. That's what has to happen. You saw Jackson, you saw Luis Gutierrez. They just started groveling to the mayor, right? After making all these noises about, they made him at the City Club. You invite Luis Gutierrez to come in and talk about all these things that were wrong with the city and what he was going to do implicitly.
Yes.
And then he just sucked up at the end, right?
Put it like this.
Did I get that right?
You're really strong on someone else's strength. You want these guys to run out, try and raise the money and lose. Do you think they didn't do any polling?
Anything. I'm just going with the facts.
Well, remember, you're entitled to your opinion.
No,
you're not
what
entitled to your
Moynihan's,
facts.
yeah, Moynihan said that.
Daniel Patrick Moynihan, another
Everybody's
professor.
entitled to his own opinion, but not to his own facts. Sir.
And you're very
I'm
good
talking
at that.
facts.
No, you're talking opinion.
What? Daley has sat in the mayor's chair in the city of Chicago for what, 38 of the last 51 years?
Since 1955, the former Mayor Daley was there for 20 years. This guy's been there for 18.
Every year but 13 years it's been a Daley.
So?
You call that a good system? You call that competition? You think the public is being well served by that?
If they don't like it, they should vote against them.
Well, have you ever heard of a machine? I mean, do you think...
I've written books about it. I think I have.
Well, of course. So when you say they should vote against it, if the machine marshals all these resources, if they get the government, if they get, not they have the government, but they get the Republican Party to join in, that's what Kass is talking about. It's interesting to find out the Republicans who are supporting Democrats, who are being bundled, and who other Republicans who supported Blagojevich. You're lambasting the conservatives. You're saying for knocking off Topinka, or at least not helping her. But Kass is saying it was that combine, the Republicans.
That combine.
You don't think Republicans were out there supporting Rod Blagojevich? They were staying in the background, but they were there. They were financing the campaign.
Put it like
Who the hell was Stu Levine? Was he a Democrat?
Right. It's tough to answer a question when you ask a question, then you ask another question, then you ask another question. Talk about McCarthyism.
Stu Levine, was he a Democrat?
No, Stu Levine is the Levinocrat, it looks like.
Yeah, he was a Republican who good friend of Jim Edgar, right?
They go where the money goes.
Excuse me, good friend of Jim Ryan, right, initially.
They go where the
and then Levine went and he took the money to Blagojevich, right?
But what are you suggesting, that John Kass should run for office? That John Kass is the sole arbiter of what's honest and what's dishonest? I mean, these are individuals who are in their own right. Jim Ryan's a fine individual, he's a good attorney general, would have been a very good governor. Are you suggesting that somehow he was knifed in the back by his own people? Are you suggesting that for 7 straight elections, Thompson, Edgar, and Ryan won for being governor? Are you suggesting that they were part of this?
The Combine was happy to have Jim Edgar there?
They were there. And so the Combine decided...
Combine was happy to have George Ryan
there.
Sure,
the Combine...
With Daley and Ryan got along fine.
Sure, and so Neil Hartigan was just a potted plant when Jim Edgar beat him in 1990. You know what it is? It's basically George Orwellian politics. You got to have someone to hate. You got to simplify it. So now you call it the Combine.
All right, let's switch.
You know, a Combine is a machine that grinds up things, and that's what this whole idea about it is. Individuals. The Republican Party is in a mess because they lost their suburban base. End of story.
And they lost the suburban base. Why?
They lost the suburban base because the quality of their candidates, including Peter Fitzgerald, who, remember, won over a very wounded Carol Moseley Brown in 1998, and Peter is one of the smartest guys ever run for office. The bottom line is that the suburban base of the Republican Party is no longer seeing candidates that they could support for high office. Keep in mind
who's
that
supposed to go out and get good candidates?
Locally, the Republicans still control almost all the county local governments and suburban Cook County governments. It's when they run for state and national office that the candidates no longer reflect suburban values, suburban ideas. Remember, this is a metropolitan state. 2/3 of the people live in Cook and the Collars. If for a Republican Party to be successful, they have to reestablish the suburban base as a counter to what's happening in Chicago. They haven't done it. That's why they lose.
They have to. Ideas matter. Ideas have
you're
consequences.
darn right.
You
Ideas
remember
matter.
that from the University of Chicago,
Ideas
right?
matter.
Professor Weaver, is that right?
No, not Professor Weaver, but I remember ideas.
Who said
do.
that? Ideas have consequences. You don't remember?
But I don't remember.
Okay, but they do have consequences.
I thought it was Jeff Berkowitz.
Well, I'll take the credit. Ideas have consequences.
That's a fact.
Okay. If the Republican Party doesn't have any ideas in the state of Illinois, it's going to be trouble.
You need two parties.
Nationally, the Republican Party came back in 1994 when Newt Gingrich and his friends, his colleagues, came up with the Contract with America. They set out ideas, they took over the Congress, and it succeeded for a while until they forgot why they came there.
And
Would that be agreeable?
Gingrich decided to take on Bill Clinton politically, which was a terrible mistake.
But they forgot their ideas.
They had ideas. There's no argument.
They wanted to cut spending. They wanted to
and they didn't do any
budget.
of it.
Well, they did some of it, but then they were seduced by pay to play.
Put it like this.
They were seduced by pay to play. But my point is, the state GOP, if they want to get going, don't you agree? They have to get some ideas, a contract with Illinois. And they have to have a brand, which they don't have. Do you agree with that?
And they need someone, a couple of people who are attractive spokespersons for those ideas. You have to have individuals who have the intelligence and the charisma and the economic support. You're absolutely right of talking about the dollars. But just keep in mind that we've had this for years, tax and spend liberal Democrats. Now we have tax and spend conservative Republicans. I mean, the fact of the matter...
Not in the state of Illinois. No,
Well,
let's shift over to the state of Illinois now, because you've got this inviting target. You have Rod Blagojevich, who's being hounded by investigations for public corruption all around him.
It's
or at least
tough when you're the governor and you're called public official A.
Right.
Yes,
so
that hurts.
It should be easy pickings for the Republicans to point that out, to inspire some people to step up as strong candidates, and to eventually take over the state legislature, take the governor's mansion back. It should be easy with that kind of corruption going on, right?
Should is the key word.
But you need a state GOP chairman who will lead the charge.
The chairman of the party is irrelevant.
Is Andy McKenna Jr. irrelevant?
He's a nice young man, and he comes from a wonderful family. But you name me, there's never been a book written on the great state chairman of the Democrat-Republican
Why
Party.
did they kick out Gary MacDougal in a flash?
I have no
but then they
idea.
install. Has Andy McKenna raised shareholder value for the state GOP in the last 3 years? Isn't how you judge a CEO?
Once again, you're trying to find someone to blame. You're trying to.
Should we Frank Watson? He's the Senate minority leader in the state Senate. Should we blame Frank when they lose 5 seats and he goes off to Italy for 10 days, a month before the election? Do you think that's a blame on Frank, or should we just give him a pass?
I'm not the one doing the blaming or giving him a pass. The Republican State Central Committeeman or the Republicans in the Senate should do something about it.
They should, but they don't. What about the minority leader in the House,
what are they,
Tom Cross?
What the combine
I'm just asking you. I'm just
combine's
asking
dropping little losing dust all over the Republicans. You're going to act silly and stupid.
But Tom Cross, he's the state
he's
the House minority leader.
Very bright young man.
But he's either losing seats or just treading water. My point is, should anybody be accountable in the state GOP for the poor fortunes of the state GOP?
Sure, and you could replace them. You guess what? Unless you come up with candidates who...
Well, somebody should be coming up, but that's the point.
Who's
Cross
the somebody?
should, Watson, McKenna, somebody. There should be some leaders doing it. You think these people just pop up out of
nowhere?
nowhere?
Who would you like?
It's not my job.
No, you're good asking questions. You're not so good answering.
That's why you're there and off.
That's right. It's why it's called the Berkowitz show. It's easy to ask them, but it's tough to answer them because there isn't one single person or one single thing that can turn this around. Right now, things are so bad for the Republican Party, as you just pointed out. The Democrats are in disarray. They control everything and can't accomplish anything, and yet the Republican Party is what? They're bystanders.
So what's going to happen here? We're looking at the governor's proposal, the state of the budget. He's come out, he suggested a lease of the lottery to finance a capital budget. He suggested a securitization of the tobacco settlement. He suggested a big tax increase for companies that don't provide what he calls adequate health care. He suggested a tax cut based on last year's performance. He suggested an economic stimulus for people who have kids, $300 per kid tax credit. A pension obligation bond scheme, raising tax on casinos, gaming expansion.
I want you to save all those because none of them are going to happen.
So none of it matters. It's all just talk. It's all just hot air. And what do the Republicans say in responses? What is the Republican message?
That's the point I was trying to get across to you, Mr. Berkowitz. The Democrats are in disarray and the Republicans are bystanders. Right now, the Republicans should be leading the charge against the governor. Who's leading the charge against the governor in Springfield?
And we'll think about that, but I very much want to say we're going to continue to speak as the credits roll, and I very much want to thank our guest, Paul Green.
Always good to agree with you,
Thanks so much for coming here. He, of course, is the moderator of the public policy programs at the City Club of Chicago. He is a professor at Roosevelt University. You can find him every Wednesday morning on WGN AM radio. That's 7:20 a.m.
7:20 on the dial, 7:10 a.m.
7:10. And is Paul in the Politicians?
Yes, all the way to 7:45.
He is a double graduate of the University of Chicago. I should say they're very proud of you, PhD and a master's.
Perhaps.
And you're the person